Hey guys, it's Caroline, career and leadership coach. And today I want to share with you three things you need to know on how to navigate the interview and land the job at the end of it. And the reason I want to share this is because so many people are in interviews and they don't realize that they don't have to be a passenger. They can actually control or minimize the risk. I always call it risk minimalization. It's like there's always like external influences, factors you can't control. But the things that you can control, you better do really, really good. Because if not, you have to say at the end of it, hand on heart, I did the best thing I could during this interview. And that's why I want to share these three things with you. Now, before we dive in, tomorrow evening, I'm holding a free online event. It's called The Round Table, and we're going to talk all about interview disasters and how you can actually avoid them. So if you are actively interviewing and if you say like, look, this is really something that is of interest to me, then go to the link. It is you can see it here. It is on my website / the round table. Go to that page, register your details, and join tomorrow. Now it's a free online event. It's a round table concept, and I'm going to share some insights with you, and people will be able to ask me any type of questions. So about interviewing, of course. So it's very interactive. It's not me preaching to you about like, okay, you have to do this or you have to do that. It's more about like sharing the experience, see what has worked with others, my opinion, my ideas. I will share those insights with you. And believe it or not, it's going to be an invaluable experience for you. So let's talk about the three things you need to know about interviewing. First thing that is really important is understanding the flow. Now, depending on the type of role that you go, if you go for, like, let's say more of a technical role and you only have to demonstrate your technical abilities, the interview will be very geared towards identifying whether you have the skills and experience needed to succeed in the role. That's as simple and straightforward as that. However, the more you climb the corporate ladder, the more important it's going to be that you demonstrate those leadership skills, even as an individual contributor or a team leader, or like if you actually like manage projects and you have to manage cross-functional teams. It is so important for you to really demonstrate your leadership capabilities, that and your strategic capabilities. Now, it's not enough anymore to just say you have those skills, because everybody at your level will say it. So there needs to be an understanding of how to demonstrate that. And so you have to make sure that during an interview, you understand the flow of it, that you understand what is going to happen. And every interview has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's like everything. So you have to understand how to influence each stage of the interview to actually make sure you position yourself in the best possible way to actually eliminate any questions, any reservations, any objections, sorry, that they might have. So, the beginning of the interview, you used to introduce yourself. Now, this is a very important moment, because the first question in almost every interview is like an icebreaker. It's that "tell me about yourself" question, and most people get their knickers in a twist even with that question. They just waffle, they go too long, they're not going to get to the point, and so on. They already just like make a big mistake there. And so basically the interviewers, they are going to make their first impression based on how you present yourself. And if you waffle and be all over the place, is that really the best presentation of yourself, or the best impression you can give of yourself for a leadership role? Question. So, and think about when you interviewed. like how important that was. And I know this is something that's often not consciously done, but unconsciously, this is really going to impact the rest. The middle of the interview is about really making sure that you create some engagement. So we have this saying in marketing: know, like, and trust factor. That's what you want to build up as a brand. But here is the thing: as when you go to an interview as a person, it's brand you. You have to build that know, like, and trust factor. So how do you make that connection during the interview? And that's by creating engagement or trying to create engagement. Sometimes it's not possible. I know, I've been there, and I've been a part of interview panels where it is not an option. Definitely not in the first interview. But there is so many times that it is an option. The person is just a little bit too petrified or too nervous, anxious in the interview to show them their real personality. I was I was giving interview training to one of my clients. So if you're interested in interview training, please reach out to me because it's so important. And so I was giving interview training to him. And at a certain point, I was like, okay, I asked the question and I could see him tense up like this. It's like, what happened to you? I said, like, all of a sudden, all your personality just got sucked out of you. It's like you try to smile, but you're tense, and it's like you're just like it's not pretty. So just make sure that in an interview that you do not lose your personality, and that you actually just like are able to create that connection in a very, very different way than just like, oh, I'm not making this connection. I'm not, they're liking me, hopefully. No, no, probably not. So it's like, and interviewing is a skill, and a skill you can learn. And the only way you can learn something is by practice. And more about that in a second. I'm just going to talk about the last element of the flow sequence. So you have the start, the middle, and the end. So at the end, it's the everlasting impression. It is so important to get right. A lot of people just waste that time to ask random questions, important but random. Like, you want to use the end of the interview to actually ask questions that are thought provoking to the other person, that the other person think like, oh my god, I really, really want this person to work in my team. Like, they are so smart, savvy, like really switched on. Like, that's what you want them to the feeling to have at the end of your interview, by asking questions like, what's a team structure like? It's very important, but you're not going to get not going to be able to add value to that question in terms of how suitable you are for that position. You will say like, oh yeah, all right, thank you. Or this is also a good one. People use this question very often at any level. Okay, so do you have any questions for us? Yeah, definitely. Can you tell me what your management style is? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm very open. I have an open door policy. I'm looking for the results that you bring to the table, but like, and we can sit together if that's what you want. Blah 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 blah. You get a bullshit answer at any given time with that question. Nobody is going to say, actually, I'm a narcissist and I'm backstabbing also, and I'm definitely going to steal all your ideas and claim them as my own. Of course not. They're not going to do that. So you have to make sure that at the end of the interview, you actually are smart in really understanding, like, okay, how can I optimize this given moment, this given time, to find information about alignment, my alignment, value alignment, and the organization, the boss, and the team, because there are a couple of layers that you have to really break through. And how can I confirm that I'm the suitable candidate for the job without explicitly saying it? Like, hey, I'm really good for the job. You don't want to do that. So that's the first thing that you need to understand is the flow of the interview. Oh, look, okay. So let's look at 2 and 3. So 2 is obviously practice, and people will say like, "Of course, Caroline, I practiced for the interview." And I wrote down all my answers and I read them out, and maybe you practiced in the mirror, and maybe you watched a YouTube tutorial about how to do an interview and nail it, and maybe you follow the star approach. And sorry, none of that is going to really help you nail the interview. Like I said before, interviewing is a skill you can learn. But to master something, you need to practice, practice, practice. You need to have somebody that really sees your blind spots. All my clients, they say, like, oh my God, like I didn't even think about that, or I didn't even know I was doing that in an interview or saying these words. Because, like, I had a client that was going for an IT director's role, and he was always getting the first interview, but he struggled with the second interview. And always out after the second interview, they said they gave him the feedback like, man, you're really a nice dude. You would fit so well in the culture. You just don't have the skills required and the strategy required for the job. And he would say, Caroline, I'm so frustrated. Like, I have the skills. Like, why didn't they see it? And why wasn't my ability to demonstrate that in an interview good enough for them to have the confidence that I've got the skills needed? So we did mock interviews, and again and again and again and again and again. And what I noticed was that he kept on saying certain words, and words that actually unconsciously create doubt of your capabilities to the interviewer. And those things you don't do, or you don't get by practicing one time in front of the mirror, or practicing one time with your partner, or do it like it requires exercise, practice. It's like riding a bike. You can't learn to ride a bike by reading a book. You can't learn it by watching a YouTube video. You don't learn it by doing it one time, and yeah, you might fall on your on your butt and you might fall off, and then you get up again. But by the end, if you do it like 3, 5, 10, 20 times, you can ride with your hands off the wheel and just like ride in the wind. You can all do probably all types of things on your bike. But this is what I mean. Riding a bike is like interviewing. It's like the more you do it, the more you get familiar with your answers, with your stories. And that's another thing. When I talked about the flow of the interview, the start, the middle, and the end, and in the middle you have to make sure you create that engagement. One of the things that's really important is that you actually um, master storytelling in an interview. People often think like, oh yeah, if I follow the star approach and I will script it, and I don't want to be too scripted and blah blah blah. It's like the star approach or any other approach is merely there for you to structure your answer, but to tell it as a story. Storytelling engages, and most people don't make the connection between storytelling and their interview answers. And that's why they don't have that clear, good connection, and that really build that know, like, and trust factor. Anyway, I'm going off of a of part here, but practice is really important to understand your blind spots, to understand like what do you need to twist and tweak. Is it like smiling? Is it like making eye contact? Is it your posture? Is it something that you say? Is it a combination of we and I? Like when to use what? It's like the questions that you ask in the beginning, in the end. Like most it's so funny, like most of my clients that I do interview training with, they tell me like, Caroline, I'm more nervous of having an interview practice with you than having the real thing. this is good. This is what I want. Because if they are nervous with me, that means that it's going to be a walk in the park, whatever they're going to walk into, because I will tell them if they're like, if they need to improve, not if they're rubbish. I don't want to demoralize them, but I will tell them and give them honest feedback. When is the last time you received honest feedback? No bullshit, just plain, honest, straightforward feedback. Well, people can say that they regularly get that on things like interviewing. All right, so let's actually go for the third one. And the third thing that you need to address is the elephant in the corner of the room. Most people don't do that. And here's the thing that happens. Okay, thanks very much for coming to the interview. We really had a good connection with you, but we chose somebody with really more industry experience. And you go like, really? You could have seen that from my resume. I didn't have the industry experience. Still, you invited me for an interview. What's wrong? This is what often happens. And it could be budget, or it could be a strategy. You're not strategic enough. We went with somebody who has more strategic experience. It's like, what do you mean? I've done strategy for the last 5-10 years. What do you want? Like, do you want 100 years, me being a fossil? There's so many aspects. So when I say you have to address the elephant in the room, what you don't want to do is actually spell it out and say literally like, oh, I don't have the industry experience. How relevant do you think that is? That's really bad. What you do want to do is, because these are the questions in the back of their head. So when you go through a job description, you have to think about what are the things that are going to be in the back of their head. So things like, this person has been really a long time with a certain company. Really a long time. Are they just institutionalized? Like, how agile are they? Those are the questions in the back of the head. Might be, might not, but most of the time they have some. Or, this person is a job hopper. Ooh, is he going to stick around? He or she is. Are they going to stick around? They don't really have industry experience. They have only been a senior manager for like 6 months. They really don't have team management experience. All these things, local market experience, whatever it is, it's in the back of their mind. And it's up to you to actually make sure that you overcome those objections. So, one of the things that I've learned very early on in my career is objection handling. It's like during calls, during like anything in life, it's like you have to overcome those objections. They're saying something like, don't take directly no for an answer, just like to see like how you can actually twist it around. In the beginning of my career, it was hardcore sales. It was just like, okay, sell this pen to this person, blah blah blah, rah rah rah. Anyway, like, it learned me a lot, or it taught me a lot about handling objections. And that's the same in the interview, but they are not spoken. So you have to make sure you address them during the interview yourself as a token of like, look, so for example, I will give you an example. One of my clients, she didn't have specific industry experience. And so we worked on a certain strategy that's called the strategy after your introduction, the tell me about yourself question. We have a very specific way of answering that. She did all that. And at the end, she actually added one sentence which cleared that back of the mind question, that objection that they had already from the start, and gave them the confidence to not even have to think about that for the rest of the interview. And so that is the power of like, you are able to plant seeds during the interview. Will it always work? No. Will it often work? Yes. And so this is about risk minimalization. This is what I said in the beginning. It's your job to understand how you want to navigate a full interview process, to actually understand what those objections might be, so that you can indirectly address them already during the interview. And this is how you actually are just minimizing that risk. And then, like, it's so it's not easy like to do. It's like you need to understand, you need to learn this. We don't get taught this at school, how to interview, how to nail an interview, how to overcome those interview objections. Nobody gets nobody gets to know that. And some people are really good in talking and waffling and walking talking their way through it. But I can tell you, at a certain level in your career, when you actually go from being a doer and just you're talking about your capability and your achievements will speak for itself, and you go more for that leadership positions and for the strategic opportunities, you better get your act together, because otherwise you're not going to push through and you're not going to be able to position yourself for that next level. Because interviewing is a skill, and a skill you need to learn, and the only way you learn something is by practice, practice, and practice. And I can tell you, once you know those skills, your success is inevitable, because you will use those skills not only in an interview, but later on you will also know how to use that in a performance review. You will know how to use those skills to not only sell your company, sell the project, and sell whatever it is that you need to sell, but you are able to sell yourself. That's what interviewing is all about, is learning the skill to sell yourself. And ask yourself, how comfortable are you selling yourself? Most people say, like, whoa, Caroline, selling myself is not the thing that I do. I want my actions to speak for myself. Guess what? When you're job hunting and looking for a job, and you cannot rely on just the referrals or your network, and you go for a job when not really people know you, not many people know you, you're going to have to learn to sell yourself. And if it's not in an interview, then it will be when a new boss comes in, a new CEO, and they want to bring their dynamics to the table. Like, yes, you have to sell yourself again. So selling yourself is a key skill to success. So you better master it. You better just like learn it inside out. Anyway, so if you are interested in booking a call with me, here is a link to book a call. So www.newhorizoncoaching.com.au/call. And you can book in a call with me. We will have a strategy session where we actually talk about how it is that I can help you, whether it's just like with the whole job search, with leadership coaching, with interviewing, whatever it is with your message. Just reach out and we can actually have a chat. If you're interested in joining us tomorrow, if you say like, Caroline, I just want to see a little bit more of you to actually build that know, like, and trust factor, come and join us tomorrow. It's always good. So how these round tables happen is like they are on Zoom meetings, not a webinar, so Zoom meetings. So ideally you have your camera on. Some people prefer it to not have it, but if it's on, I assume that you're willing to participate in the conversation and even share your experience, because the more you share, the more customized information and insights I can give you. And what often happens so many times is the penny drops when somebody asks a question and you think like, oh damn, this really applies to me too, didn't even think about that. And you see like how that can impact and influence that, and then you learn so much more. And it's that brain power that comes together that people actually can learn so much. So yes, so it would be great having you join tomorrow. Actually the roundtable is every week, so if you and every week we have a different topic. So if you have have an idea on a topic, please reach out to me also and say like, hey, Caroline, love to have a round table around this topic, and more than happy to run one if that's appropriate. Now, one last thing, if you came across randomly across this video, um, just make sure to also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm all about creating a network of people that I can help, and that the more people I can help with my message, the more careers I can help transform. And so that's what is important to me. I'm on a mission to help managers stop playing small and really step into their power, because I can see that a lot of us are disconnected. We just don't know left from right anymore, and we just do things unintentional. And so for me, what I'm on a mission on is like helping people really connect back to their inner power and create their career or design their career from that space, knowing who they are, their authentic self, identifying what their genius zone is, really understanding the skills, the strengths, and the capability, and bringing that up instead of just like going through the motions and having a career that's mediocre. And it's really, how can you just like stop mediocrity and just like step into your power and really create a career that fulfills you, that challenges you, and where you get paid what you are worth. All right, guys, I hope that makes sense. I hope you felt a little bit inspired. I hope you join tomorrow, or I hope that you book in a call. Either way, I'm here to help you. Feel free to reach out. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time. See ya. Bye.